Just yesterday, I came up from my studio in the basement where I feel like I'm talking to myself all day long. And I'm giving interviews, and I came up, and my wife, Connie, said, "What's wrong? You look like something's bothering you." It was one of those days. And I said, I'm done. I'm done. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I don't want to detail it and go through it and tell everybody this horrific, evil sin that our nation is turning into a cesspool. I'm tired of it. Typical my wife, she said, "Well, you better turn around and get down there and keep talking. Because there's a reason why this information was thrust upon you." Because my business partner, Ryan Madden, and I, who is a genius when it comes to documentaries and filming, he and I went on a journey 7-8 months ago to create a documentary called What is Treason? Invaded. And about a quarter way through, we could not believe what was happening. What was happening was every single interview, every single lead was tied to pedophilia and child sex trafficking. So much so that halfway through, he and I made a deal. He's a Christian, and we said if God wants us to do child sex trafficking documentary, then he'll allow us to sell enough of these Invaded, and then we'll go back and refilm and film and then get this out. Typical God. We come back and we start going through the hundreds of hours of interviews. And lo and behold, we have a gigantic child sex trafficking documentary staring us in the face. We don't need any more footage. And we made a conscious decision that we need to get this out as fast as we can, because we cannot morally sit on this. What did we discover? We discovered the United States of America government opened the borders and has allowed 500,000 unaccompanied alien children, ages ranging from infants to 17 years old, to pour into America, be turned over to cartel members on the north side and trafficked sexually, labor, organ harvest, child sacrifice. I want you to understand who I spoke to. I didn't speak to people that heard about it, studied about it from afar. I'm talking to FBI whistleblowers that dealt with child sex trafficking, DHS whistleblowers, USCIS whistleblowers, all on child sex trafficking. I interviewed the people that worked inside the NGOs that were trafficking the children throughout the country. I talked to people that run child rescue organizations. I talk to people that go and look for the organizations that traffic children and give all the paperwork to law enforcement to go arrest them. Everyone I talked to, everyone I interviewed, those interviews lasted from an hour to 5 hours. And I asked them all a question at the end. It was more of a statement. I said, after everything that you've told me, I'm going to give you a statement. All I want is a yes or a no. I said, my statement is, the United States American government is the world's largest child sex trafficking organization in modern history. I could not get the word history out before they were shouting, yes, yes, yes. They witnessed it firsthand. I asked all these people this question. Explain to me, tell me, prove to me that I'm a guy that doesn't believe anything you're saying. Prove to me the federal government is child sex trafficking. Prove to me they know it. And they told me stories after stories after stories that I could not believe. But two stories stuck out to me very, very prominently in my mind. A man by the name of Carlos Arellano testified in front of Congress multiple times, went undercover for a U.S. senator, And he worked inside the child detention facilities that dot the state of Texas. Then he flew children across America, working for NGOs. And he said to me, every couple weeks, there would be an all-hands meeting. And we would all go to Carrizo Springs or Pecos, Texas. Those are two giant FEMA camps that house children in the thousands. In the thousands. You can't believe how big these places are. And he says we would go there, and then they would load up 200 to 300 children at about midnight into buses, and then we would drive south to El Paso. And I said, why are you going back south? He says, because in El Paso, there's a private airstrip, and on that airstrip would be 3 airplanes that are unmarked, and we would take all the children and we would push them into these airplanes, and the pilots and the flight attendants were forbidden to talk to us, and we were forbidden to talk to the pilots or flight attendants. And then in the middle of the night, they would fly us all over America, and we would land somewhere on another private airstrip. And on the airstrip would be rental cars, vans, and buses, and we would get into our assigned cars, and then I would drive my kids through the night, and then get to their destination by the morning, about 6 or 7 in the morning. And he says, do you know who I gave these kids to? He said, I gave black kids to white people, Asians to Hispanics, Hispanics to whites. Around and around we went. He said, JJ, I was delivering people that were not family. And he hesitated, and I said, I need you to say it out loud, Carlos. What were you doing? JJ, I was trafficking children. Now, in my line of work, I'm always watching somebody's body language. I'm not listening to their words, especially if I'm taping them, like we do when criminal interviews. I got tape, I go back and listen to it 100 times. I'm just watching their body language. I'm seeing if they're lying to me. There's telltale signs, and I was really good at it. Really good at it. Carlos was telling me the truth, but I still am a skeptic by nature. Fast forward six weeks later, I'm in Colorado, and I don't let anybody know who I've talked to, because I don't want it tainted. I just want you to tell me your story. My partner Ryan Matta has all the cameras set up, and he's over here in the corner. And I'm talking to a man named Basil. He runs a child rescue organization, 100% recovery, is recognized as one of the top in the country, maybe in the world. And I asked him the same thing I asked Carlos. Tell me, convince me. And Basil, who is a former CIA operative in special forces in the military, he did things, and I know it. And he's telling me, let me tell you this story, JJ. My organization got a tip that 2 airplanes are going to fly into Chattanooga, Tennessee at 2 o'clock in the morning, and there's going to be 100 children in it. And I paused and I looked at Ryan, gave him that look like, dear God, make sure your cameras are working, dude. And he tells me, we called the local PD and they said, don't worry about it, we've already heard they're coming in. And he says, I don't believe that. So we set up surveillance. Sure enough, 2 o'clock in the morning, here comes 2 planes out of the darkness of the sky, lands on the tarmac in a private airplane landing strip, and 100 kids get pushed out like cattle. He said it wasn't like gentle, it was like prodding them and jammed them into 2 buses, and those 2 buses left in the dark of night. In my documentary, I show video footage of these kids landing across America. I asked Basil, as well as I asked Carlos, what was going on? We were trafficking children. 100% trafficking children. Do you know who is moving the children? Carlos has a GED from McAllen, Texas. I'm not bagging on him because he has a GED. He's a smart guy, just not academically credentialed. The annual income in McAllen, Texas is $11,000 a year. He was making $6,000 to $7,000 a week. How do you get 1,000 escorts? He said we go to the local day labor site and we hire everybody we can. We train them in a day, and then they travel with these children as young as babies to 17 years old, opposite sex. And then he told me what's happening inside of these detention facilities in America. And they are raping the children inside the facilities. Our DOJ, the most corrupt DOJ maybe in modern history, has actually began to sue Southwest Keys, which holds a couple thousand children in a gigantic super Walmart. And they have been raping the children in there. Same thing with Catholic Charities. And then I asked these people that deal with this, and I'm going to tell you because it has to be spoken out loud, because if we don't talk about it, we're never going to acknowledge it's true and happening, and we're never going to do anything about it. I said, I need to know, even though I do not want to hear, I want to know what it looks like, sounds like, and smells like when you go rescue these kids. I need to know. Because if I'm going to talk about it, I need to know what the answer is. Every one of these people I talk to and ask this question, I'm watching their body language and I can see them starting to go back into those times, and they all start to cry. Even the guy that's a CIA operative, that I know that he was involved in stuff that I'm never going to know about, start to cry. And as Baz and all those men and women told me, they said, I need you to understand, we're not talking about two consenting adults making love. We are talking about children, 2, 3, 5, 7, 16, punching in the face and breaking their jaw. Taking cigarettes and burning it into their skin. Then he says, you have to understand, JJ. You want to know what it looks like? You want to know what it sounds like, what it smells like? Do you understand what it is, the physicality of a grown man to rape a 3-year-old girl or a 5-year-old boy? Do you want to know what that is? And I said, yes, I do. Because I have to know if I'm going to talk about it. It says, do you know what happens to a young girl that's 13 or 14 that gets trained in a hotel 20 to 40 times in a night? The drug cartels never, ever get involved in human smuggling. Ever. My whole 24-year career and the other 60, 70 years of United States Border Patrol history, never. Why? It's too costly. The products are a problem. They have to feed them, clothe them, blah, blah, blah. So they never got involved in it until Joe Biden destroyed the border, created a mechanism to transport these products into America, and guess what the drug cartel did? They took over all the human smuggling. Why? Because if I'm a narcotic smuggler and I sell cocaine and heroin, once you digest it, you shoot it in your arm, you snort it, my product is gone. I can take a child and I can sell them for the same cost or probably more. And I can sell that child, that product, up to 20 times a day until that child life expires from being raped to death. I am telling you, your government has allowed this. Your government has facilitated and paid this, knowing it's happened. Data point 1, my last year in the Border Patrol, Donald Trump's last year in office, 10 to 15,000 unaccompanied alien children crossed the border and were sent to families across America. That's a lot, number one, but those were all from Obama-era policies we're still trying to sift through. However, every single child that was turned over had DNA testing, had background checks on sponsors, follow-up, in-house visits, follow-up. Whoever lived in the house had to have background checks. Joe Biden comes in office, year 1, not 10,000, 120,000 children. No DNA, no background check, no follow-up, nothing. 500,000 now. In 2023, Javier Becerra stated under congressional oath that we've lost 85,000. Fast forward a year, OIG under DHS said, no, I'm sorry, that's not true. We are now at 320,000. I'm telling you that every single one of these children are missing, because I'm going to tell you what the welfare check is, and you're going to think I'm making this up. A third party that has never met the sponsor, never met the child, has no IDs, looking at a folder. Their welfare check is in 30 days. I have to call the sponsor and say, hey, this is so-and-so from third party. Are you the sponsor? Yes, I am. Is Johnny there? Excuse me. Yeah, Johnny's here. Okay, thank you. Check. Welfare check. Every child is missing. As bad as that is, I want you to understand that in America, we lose between 400 and 800,000 children a year. Lose them. Has anybody ever lost a child? I have a 13-year-old kid who is my life. I've never lost him. Let's play the game of it's 500,000. Because let's say 300,000 are runaways and come back. 500,000. In 4 years, 2 million U.S. citizen children have gone missing. 500,000 UACs, 2.5 million children gone. Now let me ask you 2 very important questions. Who here has seen roaming groups of children, dirty, malnutritioned, wearing ratted clothes, roaming the countryside or in our big cities? And the answer is you have not. So my question is, where in the hell are all these children? I like to play the game, and I play it with myself sometimes, because I want to means test everything that I say. Let's say that I'm wrong by 50%. Are we still okay in America that we lost 1.25 million children gone, like got in a spaceship and went into outer space? Let's play the game that I am absolutely maddening crazy and I'm 90% wrong. Are you still okay with 250,000 children gone, having no idea where the hell they went? I'm not. And I know my numbers are correct. There have been millions of children missing. And our nation allows it. Our children are being trafficked southbound. Why? The people that are in this business tell me because our children's organs have a better life expectancy and are less parasitic. So they go south to Mexico and their organs are harvested. And I said, are these like anomalies? No, dude. It is proliferating. It is now the norm. And it is becoming more and more and more prevalent. Sometimes I get asked this when I'm giving speeches or I'm doing interviews. And they say, JJ, I just think that I just can't believe this is happening, so I don't think this is real. I said, okay, let's do this. I'm going to take child sex trafficking and we're going to put it over here just for a second, okay? Right here. Now I'm going to tell you what's happening in America right now. Since Roe v. Wade, 60 million babies have been murdered. We are ripping the genitals off of our children as young as 6, 7, 8 years old, teenagers. They will commit suicide at a 19 times the rate of normal Americans. We've confused all of our children that they can be anything they want. They have 195,000 genders to choose from. We put tampons in boys' bathrooms to confuse them. We allow men in drag to read stories to our children in our libraries. Men in drag are teaching our kids in schools. And the number one consumer of child pornography in the world is the United States of America. One of the top countries in the world that physically pays money to have sex with children is the United States of America. So everything that I just told you, now I'm going to take child sex trafficking and I'm going to put it right next to it. And you can't intellectually make the connection. You are either willfully ignorant or you're complicit in the crime. I don't like talking about this. In fact, I hate it. I do, I hate it. I'm a Christian. I'm flawed. And I pray and beg that God's merciful on me. I believe in a certain God. I don't believe in the Jesus hippie freak that we've been taught our whole life. Believe that the Ten Commandments are a suggestion. I believe they are guardrails that God put in. Now that God that I believe in, that I think a majority of true believers believe in, Muslims, Jews, Christians, that God hates to be mocked, is vengeful, pours down judgment, and he hates when one of his children are hurt. As he has said in the Bible, better to be a person with a millstone tied around their neck and tossed into sea than hurt one of my children. He didn't say, I'm going to push you down into the depths of hell because you hurt 1 million of my children. He said one. Do we sit here today as a God-believing nation and think that that God is not going to have judgment on our country when we have destroyed millions of his children? Our government is us. That's the greatness of America. We are the government. So when I stand here and I say the government is guilty of the sin of child sex trafficking, they are guilty of the sin of traitorous acts against the body of America, I'm talking to you and me. We have got to take ownership of our country. We have got to eradicate the sin that is in our nation. How do we do that? I think the Founding Fathers gave us the absolute best way. And they said, the best form of government is the lowest level. Do we keep fighting for the Senate and the House and the President? Of course we do. How do you take back our country? You start at the school boards. You start at city council, the mayor, The mayor then appoints the chief of police, and then you vote in a sheriff. It's not hard. There's got to be people in here that want to run for office. There's 300, 400 people here. What if one person ran for city council or mayor and all 300 people backed him or her? That is how you begin to make change in our country, county by county, state by state. And before you say, well, that takes too long, or you say, I don't know, I want you to understand that the left that hates America took that same playbook from our founding fathers and they took over everything, and you know they did. We have got to take back our country. It has to start at the lowest level. And finally, I think that we all have to begin to speak boldly about what we believe in. The days of being silent means you are now complicit. The days of half measures, the days of being civil, those days are over. The enemy of America wants her to die, wants to take over what we have created and our founding fathers gave us. We have a responsibility. We have got to be bold and speak the truth. No matter how difficult it is, how painful it is, how uncomfortable, how evil it is. We did not get here overnight. We're not getting out of it overnight. America is great because of us, but we have let America down because we have remained silent in the face of insanity. But we can get her back. The question is, are there enough of us to do it? Thank you.